Hello, my name is Andrea, and this is Starlight Stories for Magical Children. Here you will find a collection of stories that were told to me from storytellers from magical realms, the animal kingdom, and nature. I am delighted to share these stories with you. And maybe as you listen, you'll find that life really is magical, and so are you. Our storyteller this week is a fae. Did you know that fae is another word for fairy? And I recently learned that some fairies actually prefer to be called fae. And the children in this story, they get to find that out too. All right, let's begin. It was a lovely spring day. It was that magical time of year where everything feels new and light and hopeful. And this particular day, 3 friends, Mira, Jasper, and Finn, were all playing outside. They were enjoying that feeling of the sunshine on their skin after they were finally able to shed their winter jackets. Finn looked around. "Hey, let's play hide and seek," Mira called out. "I'll count, you two hide." So Finn and Jasper took off as Mira covered her eyes with her hands. She slowly counted to 10. As she counted, she was feeling that maybe she needed to be extra observant in this game. 10, Mira yelled out. "Ready or not, here I come." She opened her eyes, spun around, and looked. Now, this backyard had some very excellent hiding places. There was a little patch of wildflowers where some of the spring bloomers were just beginning to show their color. There was a huge oak tree perfect for climbing, multiple bushes, a woodpile stacked twice as tall as Mira, and a wooden playhouse. Oh, and the garden shed. So many places to hide. When she glanced around, her eyes stopped at the oak. Something inside her told her to look there first. She ran over to the oak tree and immediately looked behind the trunk. Nothing. Neither Finn or Jasper. She was just about ready to move on to check out the playhouse, but then she felt this little nudge to keep looking. She looked up in the branches of the tree. It would be so easy to spot her friends. Those new baby leaves wouldn't provide much coverage in a game of hide and seek, so she didn't see anything at first glance. But again, she felt this nudge to look closer. She began to climb the tree. She knew she was supposed to be looking for her friends, but she had this feeling that she was actually looking for something else. When she climbed 3 branches high, she stopped. She almost missed it. It was such a brilliant hiding place, but not for one of her friends, but for a fairy. There, almost perfectly camouflaged next to a budding leaf, is where she spotted the fairy. There was a tiny giggle, and in a flash of light, the fairy was gone. "Wait, don't go," Mira cried out. But the fairy remained hidden. Mira was about to go find her friends when she heard this small whisper, "Come find me." Hold on, does the fairy want to play hide and seek too? Mira thought to herself. She had 2 options in front of her. The first option was to leave the tree and go back to trying to find Jasper and Finn. Or she could call her friends out of hiding and ask them to help her find the fairy. The answer was very obvious to her. "Finn! Jasper! Quick! Come here!" She heard Jasper yell back, "Is this a trick to get us to show you where we're hiding?" "No," Mira said. "I promise I'm not trying to trick you, but I think we have a chance to play an extra fun game of hide and seek." Jasper and Finn were both curious, so they ran out from their hiding places and found her sitting in the oak tree. She filled them in on the new game. Okay, friends, I know this might sound unbelievable, but while I was looking for you two, I found a fairy instead, right here in the oak tree. As soon as I found him, he giggled and disappeared. But I think he wants us to keep trying to find him. Hide and seek with a fairy. Will you help me? Jasper yelled out, I'm in! But Finn, he looked over at Mira. How are we supposed to find something that doesn't exist? Mira replied, Okay, Finn, I totally understand why you might be feeling skeptical, but just for this one time, can you imagine that they do exist? Or if you can't even imagine it, can you just pretend? If we never find a fairy, then oh well, I bet we'll still have fun trying. Please, 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 will you join us? Finn softened and smiled. Yeah, let's do it, he said. Yes, Jasper and Mira said. All right, let's go. But where do we start? Mira asked. Now, they knew it would be much harder to spot a fairy than it would be to find a child. There are so many more places a fairy could hide. They would have to keep their imaginations open and follow their instincts as they moved about the yard. Jasper thought for a moment. If I was a fairy, where would I hide? Flowers, definitely flowers. There was a beautiful wildflower patch in the far corner of the backyard. So there they went. They moved a little cautiously, not wanting to scare away the fairy, or even worse, step on him. So they began to carefully examine each flower, pulling them ever so gently apart. The fairy was quite small and could have many hiding places in a wildflower patch. They hadn't found a fairy yet and were beginning to feel like maybe they picked the wrong part of the yard. But as Mira was investigating a flower, she saw something. Wait a second. Is that a petal or a wing? It's a wing! I found you, she said. And sure enough, a fairy peeked out from behind the flower petal, giggled, and vanished again in a little spark of light. Whoa, did you see that? Said Finn. That was definitely a fairy. Yes, said Mira. But it wasn't the same one as last time. Maybe there are many fairies playing with us today. All right, let's go find the next one, Jasper said. Where should we look next? This time it was Finn who replied, How about the garden shed? The friends ran over to the shed. And first they walked all the way around the outside, looking carefully for any signs of a fairy. Next, they opened the shed door, and inside were garden tools, flower pots, a wheelbarrow, some buckets, and a birdhouse. Shh, Finn said, as he quietly walked into the shed and went right up to the birdhouse. He looked inside and called out, I found you! A little fairy poked her head out of the hole, giggled, and vanished again in a spark of light. That fairy wasn't the same one as last time either, Mira said. I wonder how many fairies we will need to find. Jasper asked, Do you think the game will be over once we find them all? Ooh, that's an interesting idea, Mira replied. I guess we'll find out. The children continued playing hide and seek all afternoon. The hiding spots became more and more tricky to find, and the children discovered they really had to use their imaginations when figuring out where the fairies were. But the children were feeling energized by the game, and their curiosity was like fuel to help them keep going. But yet they had to wonder, when would this game end? The sun was making its descent in the sky, nearing the horizon, and they knew they would need to head home for supper soon. They were searching around a pine tree when Jasper called out, I found you! He was kneeling on the ground when he found a fairy hiding behind a pine cone at the base of the tree. But this time when the fairy came out, she didn't disappear. And something unexpected happened. All of a sudden, with her were all the other fairies the children had found. 15 in all. Congratulations, one of the fairies said. You have found us all. The game is over, but now you will be given a special prize. However, before we give you the prize, we'd like to share something with you. From now on, please refer to us as Fae. That is how we would like to be addressed." Of course, the children said. They had never heard that phrase before, but were happy to be respectful of the Fae's wishes. "And now your prize," a Fae stated. 3 Fae stepped forward, each holding a small pouch. "What we are giving you is magic wishing dust, enough to make 1 wish. But before you use it, there are 3 guidelines you must know. Number 1, the wish that you make must be in the highest service to all. So if you wish for something that results in harm for someone else, your wish will not be granted and you will not be given any more wishes. Number 2, the wish you make must make sense with your current realities. For example, if you wish for a castle as your home, but there are no castles in the place in which you live, this is a wish that cannot be granted and your wish will have been wasted. Number 3, you cannot wish for more wishes. If you try to wish for more wishes, your wish will not be granted, and you will not be given another. The Fae continued, "This wishing dust is yours to use. Now, you may already have some idea of what you want to wish for, but we will encourage you to please wait until you are certain that it is the time to use the wish. For example, you may have always wanted to own a horse. But who knows, maybe a horse will already come to you without you needing to use your wish. You will know when to use it. Trust yourselves. Our final words to you are, be discerning, be patient, be playful." And with those words, the Fae vanished. The children looked at each other in amazement and wonder, reflecting on what had just happened. They held their pouches of wishing dust tightly as they headed for home. Each child took to heart what the Fae had told them. They all waited until they knew without a doubt that it was the perfect time to use it. And how did they use their wishing dust, you're wondering? Well, Mira, she actually did wish for a horse. And she had the wisdom to also ask for everything she would need to care for the horse, all of the food, the equipment, the stable. And since she already lived out in the country, this horse fit in perfectly with her family and the place that they lived. Her family loved the horse as much as she did and were so grateful for this new member of their family. Now Jasper, he wished for a car for his grandpa. There's a story behind this. You see, the boy was very close to his grandpa. They used to live right next door to each other back when Jasper lived in the city. Every day, Jasper went over to his grandpa's house to drink iced tea and play checkers. But then, Jasper's family moved all the way out to the country, far away from his grandpa. His grandpa didn't drive. Living in the city meant he could get around easily by walking, biking, or taking the bus. But this meant the only time Jasper was able to see his grandpa was when his family went back to the city, which Jasper knew wasn't nearly often enough. And Jasper really missed his grandpa, and his grandpa missed him. Jasper was very clever with his wish. He wished for a self-driving car with a pretend driver that looked real, of course, and the car would always safely make it to and from Jasper's house with his grandpa riding in the back seat. His grandpa could hardly believe it when Jasper shared with him what his wish was. But it's amazing how something so magical can become so ordinary over time. Jasper got to see his grandpa almost every day after that. And Finn? Well, actually, he still has his wishing dust. There's been many things he's wanted, but nothing that warranted the use of his wishing dust. Following the Fae's advice, he's waiting until he knows it's time. And now, I'm curious. What would you wish for if you were given wishing dust? It's fun to imagine. The